All right, Mr. Helm, what do we got going here?
We're setting up for the Backstep Firemanship Acquired Structure class. So we've set our blue door for forcible entry to mirror the front door. We can work on both sides of that. And if you come on up here, I'll show you what we're doing inside.
What about here? What do we got here?
So
Tell me
right
about
here,
this. Tell me all about it.
So we're going to use this for teaching rescue. This is all comes from the Clackamas Fire Department for the firefighter rescue survey. And these are our circle methods that we've learned. This is our teaching points that we're going to go with. So we're going to, first and foremost, for rescue, we're looking for live fire and layout. And then we're going to go from there to decision making, and then from there to victims. And so these are the three most important things that our class is going to focus on for the rescue side of the thing.
And tell me where this comes from.
This comes from the Clackamas Fire and the Fire Department, and from the Firefighter Rescue Surveys, where all the data come from. And then the search techniques we learned from Justin McWilliamson.
And then our next.
From up next over here is all about hose movement and water application. Most of it came from the nozzle forward. Some of it came from Ron Smith from Gary, Indiana, from the UL, from all the information from that. This is the water mapping techniques that we're teaching. This pushes that heat and pressure gradient and the moisture gradient back, which actually causes us to not feel heat inside of a structure, but also allows us to put the fire out with less water by aiming it in the correct place. Instead of just throwing it around, we're aiming it in the correct place, pushing it back, and then extinguishing it.
So you're telling me it's no longer scream, shout, and throw water all about.
Absolutely.
So it's not that.
Steep angle, ceiling wall, sweep the floor, cover every surface, seal off the door, move forward, and do it again. We're fighting it from a room away instead of above our heads.
Yeah, and then that exhaust, where that exhaust goes if we're inside there.
The cool thing about water mapping is whenever I put water here, it creates a negative cold pressure pocket, and that's where all the heat and pressure goes, is straight up to this. So instead of coming back onto the fireman like we used to feel, now this is where the pressure goes, and so we can able to push it back.
And then what about the rules of three here?
The rules of three we got from Aaron Fields from Nozzle Forward, and this is basically every single layout and every single corner that you would come across inside of a structure. So you have the three different types of houses, the three different types of hallways, and the three different types of stairs, or a combination of all three, and that's what we're going to find inside this house. And this is the drill points that we're going to be using to move hose.
And then down low here, what do we have? Move hose to and from.
Down here, this is our rules for moving lines inside of a building. Again, the pinch points, and these corners, this is what our problem is inside the structure. So if we can be able to move hose and push hose instead of pulling it, we can eliminate these pinch points, and that makes sure that nozzle continues to go. And that's what we're going to teach them today, is to come in, surplus where you can, push hose instead of drag it, and then we're going to actually make that 2 bins inside of the structure. So typically, 1 story, you're going to have 2 bins. 2 stories like this, you're going to have 3 bins to get to anywhere inside the structure. We're going to teach them to eliminate those pinch points and push that hose forward.
So to do the hose movements, how many firemen do I have? Because the majority of fire departments are short-staffed.
For this, we teach for a minimum of 2.
Minimum of 2. You're going to be able to
If you
move.
have more, better, but we teach it to be able to be done with 2 firefighters.
So very realistic as far
Very
as short-staffed engine companies.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, real quick on the door here. Let's show off the door. Inward and outward swinging door. So they're going to do some forcible entry. So that's a good skill set for them to have. So, and now here's a view of the structure, and there's Mr. Apollo, squirrel. There's a squirrel. And then we'll go inside.
First off, show you my front door.
It's a good looking front door you got here.
I don't have the numbers put on it yet, but we're going to correlate this with what they'll see on the thermal camera, because we're using paint inside the structure to create different flow paths and different fires. That way I can tell them, hey, we're going to have a kitchen fire, and we want them basically for red and orange. Those are flow water and don't stop. For orange and yellow, it's going to be a flow water and stop. It just kind of depends on where the mixture is. White tells us that it's hot. We're going to throw some water at it, but definitely this is the way we're going to do it. Flow some water. This is what we call a hit and move. These are flow and move. And that's what we're going to teach you today, is to keep that line on.
And use a thermal camera.
And use your thermal camera.
Yeah, it's not just for search and overhaul. All right, you got a nice place here, Helm. You've done a lot of work to it.
We're still working on it, but here's one of our simulations. I've got the chair that's on fire. I've got the flow paths and convection currents all done out. And also, something that we learned from Aaron Fields and Nozzle Forward recently was talking about the pocket fuels. And basically, if that chair is on fire, the whole environment gets hot. And basically, what he told us was that in a real fire, in a real house, the structure becomes part of the problem. So we need to highlight that. We get used to training fires with the pallets over in the corner and the rest of the building doesn't burn. But as you can see, I've got yellows and oranges and reds on the chair. That correlates with the heat that it's getting because of the three ways that the heat transfers. So that's to kind of keep us in mind that my fire might be there, but I also might have an issue here. So I'm going to need to cover the entire space. And we're going to use that as a tool when we flow water in here. If they just flow water at the corner, then they haven't effectively put the fire out. So they need to flow water in the entire room.
And that's like we always talk about Andy Starnes inside training. Whenever I'm doing the max firebox, whenever we do acquired structure burns, we talk about kill the heat. Yeah. And that's something, back in the day, we were always taught to crawl into the seat of the fire, do not open up the hose line until you get to see the fire. I think that something like this really highlights that idea of, hey, you better kill the heat before you push to the next room.
And that's actually from where you're standing or a little bit further back, that's where we're going to teach people to kill that heat from. As soon as you recognize it, I want to hit it from there. I don't want to come all the way up into this space.
Beautiful.
We're going to hit it from the front door.
And then, while we're talking training here, the gray convection currents. Noticing and understanding the gray convection currents on the thermal camera is important. If they're waiting until they see color on the thermal camera, it is way too late because bad things are going to happen. And also, like we always like to talk about, what do you have? More protection on your butt than on your face. Thin piece of plastic. And we don't want firefighters to crawl all the way into the seat of the fire to open up the hose line, because like we were talking earlier about the exhaust and all those bad things that are going to happen to them. So
the last step of the process, I do have some gray paint that I'm going to put on here. And speaking of Andy Starnes, he recommended that in addition to this, I'm going to hang little pieces of gray yarn from the ceiling, so that way when they open it, they could recognize and they could see the air movement, and you'll be able to see the actual gray convection currents moving with it as we flow water.
Awesome. And then who's this dude over here?
This came from the Fosterburg Fire Department. This is one of their rescue dummies.
And thank you, Fosterburg, for hosting this class.
For sure.
So huge thank you. What else we got to show?
Oh, this one's cool. I got this one pretty much done. So because we have this awesome staircase, I want to be able to teach to flow and move as stairs. And so again, correlating with the colors on the door and the thermal camera, as soon as I get into here, if you look up the stairs, I can see yellow and orange.
Oh, look at that.
Below it. So we talked about from here, you're going to end up flowing some water.
Wow.
Flow some water, shut down. As we move up, come on up here. We're going to get halfway up the stairs, teach them to flow some water again, keep pushing that back.
Yeah.
As you come further up the stairs and start to turn left, you can see that this all turns to red. Oh. And so from this point on, they need to flow the water and continue to move into the bathroom that's on fire.
How awesome is that? Beautiful. And that's a pretty good stretch from the front door as far as working the hose line and doing the movements. Yeah. So that's going to be good for everybody. Really good. What else?
Inside, I haven't gotten much done yet, but we got one of our rooms that we have a family. This is going to be one of our primary rescue rooms. So we're actually going to take one of these windows out and put in our window prop that we can be able to put plexiglass windows or plexiglass panes into it. So the fireman can actually throw a window, crash the window, break the sash, come in, do a vent inner search and shut the door. And we can make decisions about how to get the patient out now, either out the window or down the stairs, whatever's going to matter.
So we're doing some ladder work also.
We are, for sure.
Good.
And then we can be able to reset the window prop and continue to do it again and again and again.
Awesome. It's going to be a great training day. What else do we have to show?
I'm working on the basement right now. This is a really cool thing. We have a basement. Oh, here's our other room. This is going to be just another option for a fire attack room or a rescue room. I think what we're going to end up doing is ripping out a portion of the carpet, and we're going to put a smudge pot in here and actually have live smoke at the end of the day.
Good.
It's going to be coming from the second floor, and then we can move that smudge pot downstairs as well.
Beautiful. You've done nice work on the bathroom. Go ahead, let's go.
I've got, because of those angles that we talked about, right away I've got a right angle, left or a right, and then I basically have a 180 from the front door. So we have this angle here we can work. I've got another set for a fire over in the corner, and I've also got another set for a fire in the kitchen that will basically give us this T hallway. So we can mitigate this corner. We can shove hose past while the nozzleman goes this way in case we need to go to the basement, which is what our next thing is. I haven't got the yellow on, that's what I'm working on now, but as you can see here, you're gonna see yellow all coming around the door. But I've got our basement goes to the left. So we got the convection currents that heated up the side, this back wall over here. And as you come around, turn the light on for you. I've got my hallway. So one cool thing about basements,
Wow, look at that.
we always thought that this was called the chimney, and because we thought that this is just going to have heat all the way down to the ground, but after UL and NIST did all their research, they found that it's no different than a regular hallway. It still stacks up the same. So we're going to teach guys, instead of coming here, it doesn't make sense for us to come and just push hose and go all the way down the stairs, especially if you look at this stairs. The right side of this is all open. So if I was to throw a hose down here and try to slide down the stairs, you have a real risk, if it's smoky, of falling off the side and hurting yourself and then now losing your nozzle. So instead, what we're going to teach guys to do is hit the back wall, flow water into this space outside of the flow path so that we're not in that flow path. I can start flowing water here. As soon as I make sure that I am killing the heat, if I can effectively win, then I can continue to flow. And now once we come to the stairs, we're going to flow and move all the way down to the basement. And I'm working on, once you get down to basement, you can see this back wall is where I'm building the fire set to make it be a right turn. So we'll use this as hit this entire space, and then we're going to come out and we're going to use hydraulic vent to be able to go out the window, because we do have our door, because we do have a walkout basement here.
How awesome. Beautiful.
That's what we're working on right now, putting the yellow on.
So, Helm, this is a class that they can have at their department, like you do evening sessions.
Oh yeah.
You can do that.
We can do this at your department with, we could basically build our walls, and we could do a modified version of this at your department. Or we can do this in a burn facility, or if you have an acquired structure, that makes it even better, because now we have the ability to do paint.
So, Helm, you're a pretty dedicated firefighter. You've been here all day setting all this stuff up by yourself pretty much. Why are you doing all this?
I just want to help people. I learned really early on. I learned when I went to nozzle forward, I learned that I was doing it wrong, and that I needed to put a little bit more effort into my job. And from training every day and learning more about this, I became a better fireman. And whenever I started doing that, I started to not feel heat in a fire, and I started putting fires out with less than 250 gallons. And I loved that, and I want to show everyone that I come into contact with, I want to show them what I learned, because it changed my career.
Yeah. Well, Helm, thank you, and I'm excited for the class tomorrow.